We're going to go live with a tracker update, a weather look at, for the next few days. And also I'm going to give you a bit of a tutorial on the tracker. There's a lot more people now watching than there was a month ago or so when I did the last tutorial. You can get a tutorial on the GGR YouTube channel as well on how to use the website and the tracker, but for now I'll go the tracker. First thing you do, this is the opening page. We're on day 100, 1 hour 16 minutes and 21 seconds, so thanks to Ralph Tech there. And you go to this live section here, you'll see the map comes up here. You just hit that, GPS tracking, and you'll see, here we go, it takes a little bit to download. La-di-da-di-da, just waiting, there it is. I'll bring it up here to full screen, and we'll go through a few things. First of all, you've got a zoom bar here, which you can zoom in, same as Google Earth. You've probably seen that. You can zoom in bigger or smaller, so I'll go out to maximum extent. Then I'll come back to this little one here. If we go back to the full one size zoom, standard size, we've got the whole fleet there. John Luke right over the side here, and you've got Mark, Sinclair and Igor right over the other side. And interestingly, here comes Suhaili. We've got a Suhaili track, and Suhaili's about to overtake Mark, Sinclair and Igor. So they'll have some explaining to do at the end of the race. On the top bar here, this is the one that you want to be looking at along here to give you all the features. And before I show you these features, you can also get the Yellow Brick tracking on as an app, okay? And it's just called Yellow Brick Races. And then when you get that app, you'll scroll down and you look through for GGR, so it's Golden Globe Race. And you'll then have the app. If you do have the app, it has basic functions only. It'll just give you the tracks of the boats and the positions, and it'll give you a weather overlay which is called Predict Wind, which isn't anywhere near as good as what you're going to see here. So all these features I'm about to show you are available on a PC, whether it's an Apple or a what we call a banana or a Microsoft type computer. You can get all the fun parts, and you can spend hours playing with this. There's little boxes here, and the top 7 on the right are the ones that we'll go for. So the first thing you've got is you can click that button there, and it gives you your latitude and longitude grid. So these are the longitudes east of Greenwich, okay, coming this way. And then down the scale here, you come from the equator going south. So you've got 30 degrees south there, 30 degrees south here, and then this is 40 degrees south. That's where the boats want to target for the roaring 40s, and you go down to 50s as well. The next one along the line is this little button there. Now that just gives you day-night. So I'm in Tasmania at the moment. It's about 20 past 10 in the evening, so we're at night time. Over in Perth, they're still probably getting ready for a twilight, but most of the fleet over here is in daylight. So if you want to see where they are in day-night, you hit that little icon right there, and it says toggle day-night. So we'll just go back to full day. Next one is toggle course and points of interest. It's the third one along. When we hit that, basically you get the route. This is the track that the VMGs are worked out on. So the calculations on distance to finish is on this little red line here. If we zoom in on that, you'll see how it comes into Tasmania. Okay, so here's the course that everything's calculated from. And these red patches here, they're the exclusion zones, right? This is where the entrants aren't allowed to go. We keep that in that position so that most of the bad weather's further down south. By keeping them here, it keeps them up out of the bad weather, and also makes it a bit easier for any rescue services that may be needed, touch wood. So that's the no-go zone. I'll just get rid of that for a clarity point of view. The next one along is the windy TY. You hit the little wind sock there, and you get 3 options: either no wind, predict wind, or windy. And just go windy every time, because when you pick windy TY, it's the most intuitive type weather system that you're going to get, and it's quite informative. We'll come back to this in a minute, as in how the weather's working right at the moment, and see all the features that you've got there. The next one along tells you that it gives you the toggle tracks, on-off tails, long tails. I call these snail trails. Now if we zoom in on this, let's just zoom in on this fleet here. These are little snail trails. They're just a short track so you can see where they've been going in the last day or so. If I click that again, the tracks basically disappear, and so you've got a very faint line of the track. And if I click it again, bingo, you've got their entire track for each individual boat going all the way back to Les Sables d'Olonne. So it's quite interesting looking at those tracks, you know, to see how they've been going over the days and so on. So that's the little icon there that says toggle tracks, on, off, tails, and so on. The next one here, I'll just bring it over here to Tasmania just to show you how this works. It actually gives you a few options for the type of chart that you're looking at. Right now it's Google Earth with the windy overlay. I can actually, instead of going satellite and Google Earth, I can actually go to Navionics charts. And this is exactly the same as the charts that you would see on any nautical chart plotter. So if we're looking at Tassie and I start zooming in here, we've got the long track, so that red line currently is actually Jean-Luc's. You actually come right in and it's a full navigational chart. So you can see here where they had to come. Jean-Luc came up here, came into Kingston Beach, and we can keep zooming right in onto that. And I think a lot of the sailors that are watching this, they'll recognise all these depth contours and navigation marks and so on. So it's quite interesting when you're tracking a boat into very close quarters. An interesting part about Jean-Luc's little track along here is that down the bottom, if I blow this up one more, it looks as if he went right through the middle of rocks. Now that's not quite right, because what it says is that this chart, the chart isn't quite correct as per the GPS, because his GPS is correct and he actually sailed up here and in between these rocks there. So, and that's an error sometimes you get on nautical charts as well. So so anyway, we'll just zoom that out. So that's on that little globe there, and that's Navionic charts. This is the satellite view. This is a typical, it's exactly the same as Google Earth. So if we come down here, we can get to Kingston Beach. You probably saw, here we go, following the tracks down, you probably saw the pictures of when Jean-Luc, when Jean-Luc came into Kingston Beach. Sorry, I'm wasting a bit of time here. I should have done this a different way. Okay, here's Kingston Beach. We can zoom in and you can see all the houses there. That's where people were coming to say good day. Whoop, sorry. The mouse is going, oh, now I've lost it. Okay, that's where he was. That's Kingston Beach Sailing Club there. Came in, if you came down in the car, you'd come down the southern outlet and you can see Jean-Luc and next Mark Slats hanging off the beach, and it's kind of fun. So that's the options there, either satellite, and you can even go to road map. Okay, so if you want to know how to get here, you can hit road map. It's going to take too long to get. There you go. So we'll go back now to the usual view, which is the satellite image. We'll go back in size, going down here, boom, 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 and we'll go to windy TY to get the wind. All right, and that's about all we need to do. Oh, the other feature I'll show you in a minute about toggling distances. So there's some of the features that you can use. We haven't done that for a while. Now I've blown the brain, so I might have to reboot this. Yep. Too much activity there, so I'm just going to re-click back at the original here, and then hopefully it'll all come back again. It's going to reboot. I gave it so much to do in such a short time that it couldn't quite cope. That's part of the reason the app doesn't work with all these features. It's not super sophisticated, but it's very enjoyable. There's lots of fun features that you can use here to find out what's going on. The positions come up every 4 hours off the boats. And you can see here now you've got the continuous tracks. We don't want all them because it's going to confuse the issue. So I'll just hit toggle tracks once. That's no toggles, no snail trail rather, and we're going to leave the short snail trail. So here we are. I'll forget about Jean-Luc at the moment because he's right out halfway to New Zealand, and we'll come back to that. So the biggest thing is to look at the weather right now. Here it is, and there is a sliding scale here up the top. I can click and drag that scale, and the date and time will change as I'm doing it, and that will, 3 days ahead, you'll see this weather changes, right? So as you drag that forward, let's take it to the 13th, so it's 4 days time, you can see what's happening to the weather here, okay? And so that's your forecasting. You can go up to 8 days ahead of time. So I'll come back to real-time weather now. This is today, and we'll talk about this little icon thing in the middle. I'll just come up a little bit just to concentrate here. You can see this is a high pressure system here, and Mark, Sinclair and Igor, they're right in the middle of it. So there's very little wind for them at the moment. Mark's doing 1.8 knots, Igor's doing 2.2 knots. Now Igor's heading to the northeast, and I think this is a plan for him. I'm not sure. Generally, for this tactic, as I've mentioned before, they want to get down here on 40 degrees south. This is the roaring 40s, and you can see straight away there's generally a southwesterly airflow along there. You get the other side of the high and you've got a southeasterly wind, which is a headwind. So Mark's now trying to get south as quick as he can to get into these westerlies, but Igor's carrying on. Now he's got some issues with the boat, with his health and so on, and he might be deciding to go up north and just take it pot luck, just to give himself the most mild weather conditions, even though he knows it's challenging. I'm just guessing here. We won't really know till the next phone call, and that will be translated into English. He speaks very good Russian, of course, and when we get to read that, his team updates us on what's going on, and you'll see that transcribed phone call as well. And I think that's tomorrow. It's either tomorrow, I think it's tomorrow or Thursday anyway, so keep an eye out for that. Suhaili's doing great guns down here, and it'll be quite funny if she gets past Mark Sinclair. But anyway, so they've got a few days there, but we'll come back to the projected forecast going forward. Loic doing 0.1 of a knot, going nowhere. That's why it looks as if he's going backwards. This hole has obviously enveloped him, so he's got no wind right now. Istvan suggesting he's got a nice breeze because he's on that little wind band there, making 6.3 knots. He'll be happy with that. Tapio's 3.6 because you can see he's running out of breeze, and this whole system's going that way, so this is going to come over the top of them, I reckon. It's going to go this way and slow them down for a couple of days. Susie's still sailing, 4.1 knots. You can see she's there, but you've got all these centers of highs here. These are all high pressure systems, okay? And this, believe it or not, this is a high pressure system here. You can see the way that airflow is going around it, and that's what's causing this really amazing weather picture right now. I didn't mention, of course, but you can click on any of these boats. You click on Uku, and it comes up. It gives you the speed and the course that they're sailing. Uku slowed down, 2.8 knots, going course of 95 degrees true. Gives you your latitude and longitude position, and also the date and time and so on. And the positions are every 4 hours, and that's UTC. So not a lot of excitement and drama here, just generally everyone trying to get east as fast as they can. Now we can go to another icon here, the very furthest left. If I hit that once, okay, I come down and I go click again just here, and it puts up that little icon. Click again anywhere you like, you've got a second one. Now whenever I move these, if I move that and put it on Uku's transom, and then I bring it down here and put it on Susie's transom, if you look back up the top, they're actually 498 nautical miles apart. So Susie's only got 500 miles to go to catch up to Uku. And 500 miles is around about 2, 3, and not quite 4 days. Okay, so it's a bit under 4 days sailing. So if Uku was to stop, Susie's in there with a chance to get up to a pole position in third, because Uku's currently holding third. Tapio's trying to catch Susie. Susie's trying to catch Uku. Istvan's trying to keep up with Tapio. And Loic, well, he's just enjoying the ride and a bit upset at the moment because he's got no wind. So you can use that measuring tool to come up with everything. If anything, if I swing that across now, put it on Tapio's bow, Tapio's 280 miles behind Susie. That's 2 days. Okay, 2 good days. Let's say 2 and a bit if it's slow, but 2 days. So Susie's got to keep going because Tapio's got his sights set on Susie. There's no question about that. And then coming along here, we'll just drag those icons again. Put one on Mark Sinclair, Mark Slats rather. Bring the other one up to Uku on their transoms. 600 miles. So that's 4 days. You're getting about 4 good days. 150 miles a day. That's a good run. So 4 days, but realistically it's probably 4.5, maybe even 5. And in these conditions, it's very fluky. I just spoke to Mark. We put the conversation up on SoundCloud, so you can hear that. And he's been having some crazy weather. He said he's had 9 days since the big storm of winds, around 10 knots or something. Hand steering for 4 days under spinnaker to get the most out of it. Trying to catch more water. He's got a bit of water. We discussed a few issues there. He's got some backaches, and that may be kidney stones. I don't know. I've had kidney stones. We discussed it. He's not sure, but he'd like to be drinking more water, so he's trying to catch more water. So that's a bit of the picture for now on the weather. And as I say, we'll go to Jean-Luc in a minute, but I'll just scale this back and we'll start progressing the weather forward to see what's going to happen in the next few days. We'll get rid of the measuring tool. I just clicked that. We're back to the wind. Before I do, I'll just show you, when I click this little icon here, you've got another series of windows that drop down, and it shows you wind, temperature, pressure, clouds, currents, and waves. So if I wanted to see what wave height the fleet's got, I just hit the waves, and at the bottom of the chart down here, you'll see a color scale. It's just right along there. Each of those colors represents different heights. So this bluey color area is 2 to 3 meter seas, quite mild. And that's generally what they've got at the moment. So the whole fleet has been having a great run the last 5 days. They've really been enjoying it, opening the boat up, drying things out. This purpley area is about 4, the deep purple is 5 meters. When you get down to the reds, it's 6 meters, and then it goes into the brownie colors, which is 7, 8, and when it goes whitish, which you see down here, that's 9 meter seas and bigger. It stops off at 9 meters, but believe me, they can get a lot bigger than that. So generally right now, the waves are fine. If you want to see currents, there's not a lot of current up there. I've just hit the currents. You can see a bit of the Agulhas current down here. Again, it's based on a color scale, but there's really not much now for the fleet, so that's not relevant. Clouds are relevant. You can hit the clouds and you'll see areas of cloud, okay, and that'll give you a definition of potential for rain as well, because in fact, the colours are really defined here by the amount of rain that's in the clouds. So if it's blue, there's a little bit of rain in these clouds. You can see the clouds as dark and white, so that's the clouds. But when there's colour mixed in, that'll tell you whether there's water coming, and you can expect to see the entrance trying to catch some rain, hopefully. I'm on pressure now, and it gives you pressure gradients. This is an area of instability that we showed you all those calms and bits and pieces, but these ones are very defined, right? So that's definitely a big high pressure system, and Igor and Mark Sinclair right in the middle of it. There's another high pressure system here over in the Bight in Australia that'll be affecting the weather and what's going on, and a few challenges for Mark later on. But this is a transition, and there's all sorts. But anyway, you can see the pressure gradients there, a colour scale down the bottom to give you the isobars, you know, hectopascals or whatever. You can also go for temperature. Hit the temperature, see what they're getting. The greens are about 5 degrees. So Tapio right now, he's looking at somewhere between 5 and 10 degrees Celsius, and all these warmer ones up here, you know, about 20 degrees C. So the fleet's been pretty lucky. There's not been a lot of reports about snow and hail and so on. I'm surprised. I thought they would have had a lot colder than what they have. But generally, it's a bit benign at the moment. But let's go back to the wind, and we'll focus on that now and see what's going to happen. So I'm back on wind, and I can slide the scale. It's 1200 UTC on the 9th. Let's go forward a day. So I'll bring it forward to 1200 on the 10th, or close enough. There it is. And I'll just roll this back so I can get the scale here. So whoops, it easy. Where are we? Okay, I'm just going to zoom it in a little bit. Okay, so this is 24 hours away. You can see Igor and Mark Sinclair, they're still stuck. They're going to be in that hole drifting. Loic's underway at this stage, 24 hours time. He's got a nice southwesterly, and everyone here, it gets really fluky again. It's the luck of the draw. Looks like Uku's going to be stuck. He's not going to get through this hole. He'll be a bit further forward. Susie looks okay. She's going to have a southerly. Tapio's okay. Istvan's going to run out a bit, because you're remembering in 24 hours they'll be a bit further along. Mark Sinclair looking good. He'll although he's gone south a fair bit. He's down now at 41.16. He's only got 60 miles from the exclusion zone, and I'll just drop that in here. I'll put the points of interest, toggle points of interest. That should be it there. Come on. Why won't it do that? It's not coping there for some reason. We'll get rid of this. Toggle tracks on off. It's not doing it for some reason. I'm not sure why. Oh, wrong one. That's why. Course, there it is. Okay, you can see he's very close to the exclusion zone. If he goes over that, he gets a 2-for-1 time penalty. But that, you know, he's aware of that. We spoke about it on the phone. So anyway, that's the wind for 24 hours time. Let's go forward to 1200 on the 11th. This is 2 days away. Bit of a good solid push coming for the back end of the fleet. They'll start picking up in speed. Okay, Uku's still stuck. Oh, he'll have a northerly. He'll have a bit of breeze, so he'll be sailing. Mark's looking good, but it's still looking as if it might push him down. So he's going to have to watch that. You know, that's 2 days away. He'll probably head up tomorrow. So anyway, we'll watch that with great interest. Let's go forward another day. So that's on the 12th. So that's 3 days in advance. and there's a bit of a blow coming. There's no blues. Now, this is actually it's a solid breeze, and you can work it out if you go to the bottom here. You'll see the purples, 35 knots there. There's 35 knots bordering on 40. That means it'll be gusting 50, 60. Now, it's not like everyone thinks back to the big storm of Tommy and Gregor. This is straight line wind. You can see here, it's not that little circular one that they had. They were in a really vicious, nasty storm. This is typical Southern Ocean bigger wind, and it's what I call typical Southern Ocean, 35, 45, maybe 50 knots of breeze, maybe 5, 6 metre seas, but they'll be fine. I'm not worried about that. They can cope with that. We'll hope they'll all be fine, and that's on the 12th, so it's coming. We'll go forward another day and see how it develops. Okay, so now this is where it comes into play with Uku. This is on the 13th, and at the moment it's the 9th, so in 4 days' time. In 4 days' time, Uku's going to be over here. Here's 60 knots down here, so that's getting a bit more serious. So we'll have a look at that. We'll keep an eye on how it's going, and it'll go through pretty quick because that's the 13th. Let's go through to the 14th. That was a bit quick there. There's the 14th. Bingo, and it's dissolved itself and ducked down south. So so that'll be the only thing to watch for Uku. So there's a bit of breeze. So that's 14, 5 days ahead. So they've got sort of 3-4 days of reasonable weather before that comes in. And generally speaking, then after that, we'll come through again another day. All looking good, all greens up here for the whole lot. So the poor guys down the back here, they're going to be tuggling all sorts of weather now. It's going to be a bigger gap opening up. I'm not sure what they're going to do. We'll just have to wish them well on their plans to head to the east. But everyone else, roaring 40s is very typical Southern Ocean. They've just got that one little push coming through. That's the 16th, 17th. Same again, big holes coming up, but no big surprises. So go right to the end, wind it out. It looks good. There's a bit of breeze coming by then, but it's so far advanced the forecast will change by then. So so that's the main ones there. ETAs for Mark Slats, we reckon, in fact, we'll just have a look and just show you exactly how far he is from the Hobart area. One clunk there, one clunk here. We'll move it on to Mark. Still got 1,300 miles to go. That could be 10 days, you know, it's 130 miles a day for 10 days. I'm hoping it'll be 9 days or whatever, but we won't really know. It's all going to be determined by the weather. So what's happening with Jean-Luc? Let's just see here. First of all, he's actually opened up more of a lead because the guy's back here. In fact, I think he's over 1,600 nautical miles now. I'll just put come on, there's one, there's the other one. So let's just see how it's looking. Okay, yeah, 1,700 nautical miles now. Remembering that Mark Slats has not only got to go across there to catch up to Jean-Luc, he's now got to come up into Hobart, which takes a bit of time, and come out again. So it's 1,700 nautical miles. I'd suggest that's like 1,750 nautical miles. So Jean-Luc is still taking out time, which is really quite spectacular in its own way. Anyway, we'll get rid of that. We'll come back. This is today's weather. Jean-Luc's just picked up a solid southerly, and he's now you know, in some heavier weather, but it's all going to disappear pretty quick. You see it blows over, and then he sits. That's on the 10th. It's in a day's time. We come through it another day. He's going to drive straight through the middle of this, all the way down to you know, these areas here, without any big winds, but very good, solid, fast beam reaching conditions. So he's going to be flying. This one coming up doesn't come all the way through. I had a look at this earlier today. There's some solid stuff there, but he'll be back down here. He can handle that. The big wind starts to form up here. So I think you're going to see Jean-Luc doing pretty quick time. Now, one thing I want to bring up here, a couple of people have mentioned, if we go on here, this is the you know, the teams. You can see the colours of the boats here. You can work it out, but they've all got names on them. If you go on to the statistics, and we go up the top here, we go VMG from the start or VMG recent. If we go VMG from the start, it looks as if there's some weird things going on here, because it puts Mark Slats in first, Susie second, Iskavan, and so on. Now, what this is suggesting is this VMG speed here is called vector made good, and it's based on the average speed for for the last 4 hours in VMG. Now, if you look at this, Jean-Luc is down here at 4th. And why is he 4th? Because at this current VMG of 3.2 knots, it's suggesting that if he was to keep sailing at that VMG and all the way back to Les Sables d'Olonne, it would take him 250 days to get back to Les Sables d'Olonne because his VMG is only 3.2 knots. Now, Mark Slat's VMG is 5.3 knots. So if he maintained that all the way back to Les Sables d'Olonne, he'd get there in 213 days. So obviously he's the quickest. Now this VMG speed is calculated over a 24-hour period. So this is the VMG, which is the vector made good, which is the speed and direction matching this red line. Now why is Jean-Luc only making 3.2 VMG when right at the moment he's actually sailing at 6.7 knots? Now it's pretty easy to explain if I blow this up and just show you a couple of points. This is very important because some people don't get it. They keep saying, oh, you know, your numbers are all stuffed up because, you know, Jean-Luc's coming first. Hang on, I'm just trying to get this up here. So first thing, we'll zoom in on Jean-Luc. Then we'll go to a full tail. No, we'll leave the course there. We'll go to his full track. So, and I'm going to get rid of the wind here because it's easy to see the track. All right, so here's his track. Now, the VMG is calculated, if the boat was sailing directly along this course line here, he would be making, if he's making 6 knots along this course line, his VMG is 6 knots, okay? Now, when he's sailing away from the line, and before, if he's sailing up this way, if you look at this, there's the course. If Jean-Luc's sailing in that direction, the speed that he's making along the course line is actually quite slow. Even if he's doing 5 knots here, he'll only show he's making 3 knots that way, because it's like if you're sailing away from the line as well, it's just calculated through what you say, geometry, as being the speed of that boat if it was assumed to be on this line, even though it's up there sailing away. So his VMG would have been 3.2 knots. And the program that calculates that, maintaining 3.2 knots all the way to the finish in Les Sables d'Olonne, gives you those numbers. So the numbers are correct. You've just got to understand what the numbers are saying. And it doesn't answer the question as of how he's going, because the reality is he's winning the race by 1,700 nautical miles, and where he wants to go is over here. He's got to pass in between Snares Island down here and the bottom of New Zealand, and so he's following the weather. So he doesn't care about the VMG. He's not on this. He's just doing his sailing route. But the program has to be written to give you a set bit of information. We don't have an operator there updating it every 5 minutes. So don't despair. When you see those numbers, look at the obvious. Have a look at the tracker. Say, oh, this is where he's going. He's looking, he's in the lead. So don't despair on that. And finally, I just want to show you a little trick here about, for those that haven't seen it. If you want a bit of fun and you want to see, I'll get rid of a few other things here. I'll get rid of the course line. Let's leave the tracks all on. I'll go for maximum track. You can do a video replay here, because once I start moving this, I'm click and drag this line here. Hang on, I'll just bring it back here so we can see a few of the boats. I click and drag that back, and it's actually giving you a date and time there, and that shows you the positions of the boats on that date and time. So you can, see they're all going back. And you can just drag that forward, and you can see how the boats are racing each other and who's doing what. So you can just drag that along. If you want to do it automatically, you can click the little triangle there, and this is a timeline, and you can actually replay it like a video. This sets the time, so we'll go to about there, and then all you do is you hit play. See that I'm not touching anything. See the little boats are now having a little race of their own. You go, da 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 da, here comes Susie, Istvan's doing this, that, and the other, and da 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 da. And you can do that all the way back to Les Sables d'Olonne. So if you wanted to replay the whole race, you can scroll it all the way back there, have it on, just blow it all the way back so that you've got the biggest scale, and you can watch the race unfold before your very eyes. It'll just screw straight down like that. So anyway, that's about it. That was a bit of a bigger one, nearly half an hour, but it's for those that haven't seen it before, and sorry if I bored everyone else. So thanks for following, and Christophe will do a French version of this probably tomorrow, I think it is, but it's coming up once a week. Thanks a lot. See you later. Enjoy the GGR.